Comics Inebriated, a podcast about the history of fiction and nonfiction in comics, along with current events, hosted by comic creators Liana Kangas and permitted guest Matt Emmons.
Hey everyone, welcome to Comics Inebriated. I am Liana Kangas, your host, and I'm with our other host, Matt Emmons.
I'm giving an emphatic hello tonight. Hi.
And today we are actually joined by guest Cori McCreery.
Hi, I'm Cori McCreery, and I'm a 1990s Superman expert. And I am here today to talk to you about the Matrix Supergirl and Lex Luthor II. These are two wildly interconnected plots that are just absolutely insane, and I'm excited to talk to you about them. To get started, in 1986, John Byrne rebooted Superman, relaunched the Superman title at number 1, renumbered the original Superman title at Adventures of Superman, kept the numbering of Action Comics, but for all intents and purposes, this was a brand new version of Superman going forward in all 3 titles. And John Byrne stayed on the titles for about 22 issues apiece. A little less for Action Comics because it spun off into a weekly magazine instead of a monthly magazine midway through his run. But John Byrne was the writer and artist for most of them. Marv Wolfman was the writer for Adventure Comics for a little, or Adventures of Superman for a little bit. Jerry Ordway was the artist of Adventures of Superman for the entirety of it. Cut to a couple of years later, John Byrne has very quickly decided he is no longer going to write or draw Superman. Just kind of gives editors like a 1-month notice.
Respect. I get
Yeah,
it.
at least
respect.
the 1 month
The guy's an
notice.
asshole. The guy's asshole, and he has done this
I take it
multiple
back.
times to multiple editors.
I think it was really immature of him, actually. My own stance on it.
Like, he just ditches the Superman books and leaves the editors floundering. The problem is that in his last month on the books, he introduced a pocket universe.
Oh, perfect.
Pocket monster.
No.
In which there was originally a Superboy that got killed, and then after Superboy got killed, Lex Luthor became the preeminent hero of the universe.
He just dropped the bomb and was like, okay, bye.
That's much cooler than I thought.
And to help protect the Earth, he discovered the Phantom Zone and found out that there were people hiding in the Phantom Zone. Technically, they were actually imprisoned there, but they told him that they were hiding and that it was the survival zone.
And for DC, like non-DC fans, the Phantom Zone, was this created just now, or was this already existing?
No, this is a Silver Age concept.
I just found out about it.
The Phantom Zone is a place where Kryptonians put their villains and their evil people. Like, instead of jail, you got thrown into an alternate dimension.
Right.
For all eternity.
No biggie.
Whatever. So, the Phantom Zone criminals lied to Lex Luthor and told him that they were there to escape the destruction of Krypton. And naive and gullible Lex Luthor was like, all right, I will let you out.
Tisk tisk.
That sounds like a very Lex thing to do.
Some genius he is, yeah.
He lets them out and they destroy the Earth. Like, flat out destroy it. And so this alternate Lex Luthor creates a bioorganic matrix.
Okay.
That he bases on Lana Lang's DNA.
Oh.
And she becomes Supergirl.
What?
Because
What?
he adds powers and abilities to this Matrix.
Okay.
So she doesn't have all the powers and abilities of Superman at this point. She has psychokinetic powers, so like telekinesis.
Mm-hmm.
And by using telekinesis, she can give herself the gift of flight and super strength and things like that.
Is this how Lana Lane was created? Or this is just a pull, like,
No.
giving her superpowers for the first time?
Yeah, this is giving
Okay.
her superpowers for the first time. A lot of the things that John Byrne did during his run were riffs on the Silver Age concepts,
Okay.
but they were different enough.
Okay.
So this is him introducing an alternate universe Lana Lang who has superpowers.
Okay.
But she's also a protoplasmic being.
Of course, yeah.
In addition to the telekinesis powers that she also has invisibility, which that never really gets explained. Like,
it doesn't happen very
whatever.
often in DC, period. We have what, Wonder Woman and
Nobody's
Wonder
invisible
Woman
ever?
doesn't have invisibility for herself. She just
she does it for
plane.
Yeah, the plane.
Martian Manhunter is the only big one I can think of.
Yeah.
For invisible characters in DC. So this version of Supergirl can turn invisible, but the more important part is that she's also a shapeshifter. Like, Lana Lang is the basis of her body, but she can turn into whatever the hell she wants to.
So, like, beyond Beast Boy, we have Lana's just like,
whatever.
You want a giant monster that'll take over the city? I got you.
Giant is a little harder for her. She can increase or decrease her mass.
Okay.
But it's challenging for her. So I don't think she could actually do giant. But she could
be like
bigger.
a her size like Rubik's Cube. She's like, that I can do for you, easy. Like a tall lamp, absolutely. Like
mass
that
stays the same, but can turn into other objects.
I mean, the mass doesn't stay the same. She can alter it. It's just really hard.
Okay.
So if she wants to increase size, it's difficult. But she can do it.
I couldn't do any of it, so whatever she can do, it's better than what I can do. Who am I? I'm not going to knock her.
In the process of rescuing this alternate universe, which has been decimated by these 3 Kryptonian prisoners that have been let out.
So she is essentially like, ah, shit, here we go again. Gotta save.
She goes to our Earth. Like the Earth that our Superman lives on.
Okay.
And tells him, hey, we have problems. We have Kryptonians that have broken loose. We need your help. So he goes with her into this alternate universe, which, again, has been absolutely decimated. Like, we're talking nuclear war has happened on this Earth. Every city is decimated. There's a handful of human survivors fighting against 3 Kryptonians that have just decimated the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Among these survivors are Hal Jordan, who's a pilot but not a Green Lantern.
Okay.
Bruce Wayne, who has become a pilot but is not Batman.
I know both those names. I'm doing pretty good. 2 for 2.
Lex Luthor, who created the biomatrix that is Supergirl.
I know him from earlier, yeah.
So what you're saying is that all of our heavy hitters for DC Comics, typically,
they're fighter pilots.
Bruce, get out of here, you dum-dums. Lex Luthor, however, he's the hot one in this scenario. Like, we're just focusing on.
Like, he's got a full head of red hair and he looks attractive.
All right.
Red hair.
Okay.
Blonde.
Yeah, didn't know that.
Canonically, Lex Luthor in all incarnations is a redhead. Lex Luthor is a ginger. He just loses his hair. It's fine.
Huh.
So Superman comes to their rescue, and Bruce Wayne and Hal Jordan and Oliver Queen all die.
Who's Oliver Queen?
Green Arrow.
Every hero
You don't have to explain it to me, but
Green Arrow. And
okay.
also, Lex Luthor dies. So now the only surviving person, and I use scare quotes for that.
Person is finger quotes, yeah.
The Matrix that was based on Lana Lang.
Okay.
She's not actually Lana Lang. She was just based on the DNA of Lana Lang.
Inspired
the
by.
Avatar, if you will. The living OS Avatar.
And then 3 Kryptonian super criminals that have just wrecked Earth.
Yeah,
and
AKA
so
we're all fucked.
John Byrne's Superman, and I have to stress this is John Byrne's Superman, executes the 3 Kryptonian criminals by exposing them first to gold kryptonite, which doesn't exist in his universe, but in their universe strips all Kryptonians of their powers permanently.
Quick question. Superman expert. What is gold kryptonite?
Yeah, thank you. I was
Please,
going to nod. I was tired of what I was going to say. I know that, of course.
I've never heard of.
Gold kryptonite is a Silver Age creation again.
Okay.
That does exactly what I just said it does. It strips kryptonites of their powers forever. And so the pocket universe that John Byrne created was a replica of the Silver Age universe.
So one of the heavy hitters being the gold kryptonite existing.
Right.
And stripping the 3
the multiple
villains.
Types of kryptonite existing. Because
all kinds of flavor, strawberry, chocolate.
Yeah, in post-crisis universe, only green kryptonite existed at this point in time.
Yeah.
Eventually others would be introduced. But in pre-crisis you had green kryptonite, which was your normal flavor, makes Kryptonians weak and kills them. You had gold kryptonite, which strips some of their powers permanently. You had red kryptonite, which introduces a weird change that lasts about 48 hours. Like, occasionally Superman would have an ant head. Things like that.
Love this one. This one needs to be brought back immediately.
That's a kind of
it got brought back eventually. It's fine.
So what you're saying is you're going to come on for another episode.
You had white kryptonite, which was only effective to plants. You had blue kryptonite, which was only effective to bizarros. Like, you had all of these different flavors of kryptonite in the Silver Age, and it was one of the weird, really bizarre things of the Silver Age.
Matt, this was the Silver Age of comics.
Which is one of the things John Byrne got rid of for the most part. He brought it back for this arc with the gold kryptonite only for these criminals.
Okay.
On top of that, after Superman stripped them of their superhuman abilities, he then exposed them to green kryptonite, which kills them. Like, just flat out executed them.
Sometimes you gotta.
It's like the insurance that not only... So he was essentially like, every rule, don't care. And also, editor, I'm going to kill these people off. And then
I'm going to bounce.
Actually, I'm just going to do whatever I want.
And then I'm going to bounce. Because this was literally the last thing John Byrne did on the Superman books, was have Superman kill 3 people and then bounced.
Does he not kill people? Is that a thing he does?
No, he doesn't.
But
Superman
he just did.
Doesn't kill.
Yeah.
I just heard that he killed 3 people.
Yeah.
So
That's the only instance. This is why John Byrne
Superman goes back to our Earth. And by our Earth, I mean the one that he exists on.
Yeah.
And he has a psychotic break.
Oh, I thought he'd be
clearly.
Yeah.
Because he has guilt over killing these people. Like,
at least though,
has a psychotic break.
for writing the character and you know that you're doing something wrong, at least you were like, oh, some guilt and penance in here.
No,
okay.
no, that was the writers after Byrne. That was literally the writers after Byrne trying to fix his mess. That was Jerry Ordway and Roger Stern going, fuck, how do we fix this?
Okay, that now makes sense. Okay, good.
So they gave him a psychotic break, made him have fugue states where he became a vigilante instead of Superman, and then decided to protect the people of Metropolis, he was going to just fucking leave Earth.
I think I never want to read these comics because your description of them is 10 times better.
Yeah, I don't.
And I think actually.
No disrespect to those writers.
Right after John Byrne leaves is so good, and I encourage everybody to read this era. It's currently collected in the Exile and Other Stories omnibus.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's written by Jerry Ordway, who was a writer and artist at the time. It's written by Roger Stern, who becomes a prominent Superman writer over the course of the series. And like they fix what John Byrne broke. They just go about it by making him leave Earth and come to terms with the consequences of his actions.
The most wild writing prompt and/or challenge. Someone's gonna come fuck this up. Can you try and fix it for our licensing? Thank you. And then
so
incredible. In
the meantime, he also brought Matrix back to Earth with him. And now I must emphasize again that Matrix is a shapeshifter.
Yeah, she might not be chill.
Actually, I don't think I mentioned that part. She's a
you did it. Yeah. She can turn into like a lamp or a Rubik's Cube that's around the same size.
No, I did mention that. That's right. But she's a shapeshifter.
Yeah.
And not actually Lana Lang, right? Like,
and not actually Lana Lang. Her actual base state is if you had a wad of purple chewing gum.
Yeah, and I do. I have it over here.
Like if you choose some
to know that it's such a powerful being. It's like
if you choose some purple chewing gum for a good 20 minutes or so you've got that good teeth mark in it. That's what she looks like in her base state, but molded into a humanoid form. So like all wrinkly and crap and kind of gooey looking.
Oh, that's
so she's like the hobo Ditto of DC Comics.
Much, yeah.
I don't trust Ditto as is, and then you make Ditto like that.
Crinkly.
No.
So that's her base state, and he brought her back to our Earth in that base state. Except she also had some like white hairs growing out of her head, whatever.
Oh no.
From dropping her on the ground or something. Yeah.
It's like you rolled that chewing gum around on the floor and it picked up some hair.
Oh.
Incredible. This is actually by far probably one of the most intense origin stories I've ever heard of a DC character.
He drops her at his parents' house and is like, hey, Ma, Pa, can you take care of her?
In the middle of Kentucky, like just...
Kansas,
sorry, yeah,
Kansas, yeah. Like, just, Ma, Pa, can you take care of her? She doesn't really know Earth. And so
And of course, his parents are like, sure, honey.
Exactly, yes. Yeah. Ma and Pa are like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Do they do it because they have to, or do they do it because they want to?
Because they're good people, man.
I don't know.
Because we're the Southern parents, and
but
we're going to take care of it all.
But like, there's never a moment where they're like, I swear to God, I don't know.
Oh no, there are many of those moments.
Okay, I was going to say, as long as there's moments where they're like, I don't know about her.
Non-human being.
Superman leaves Earth, and that poses a problem for the fact that Clark Kent has also just basically disappeared, right?
He's having a tough time. I heard he's stressed.
Well, like, his excuse is that he's breaking a story on a huge mafia expose, essentially.
He's lying.
About Intergang. And like
he's putting sunglasses on.
He left all of his exposés with his parents to file remotely for him.
Now he's making them learn about faxing. What year is this? You know, is this internet age? Or
this would be like 1988, 1989.
Oh, they're faxing. Yeah.
I don't know. Faxing.
That's a lot to ask of Kansas parents.
Oh, viewers could not see, but all three of us just died at the term of faxing and the fact that it existed in comics.
So he left them his stories, and that was his excuse for just basically fucking disappearing. But there's still people that are suspicious, and they start calling the Kents and asking where he is. And Matrix overhears one of these conversations and realizes that if this person doesn't see Clark Kent soon, there's going to be problems. So she morphs into Clark Kent and heads to Metropolis on her own.
That seems bad. That sounds
stressful. It's terrible. However, by the time she gets to Metropolis, Superman comes back to Earth. So now there's a problem of this random Clark Kent here, and also Superman is back, and Clark Kent is back. And he is able to eventually convince her that she's not Clark Kent.
Which is
true. At that point, she leaves Earth and goes off on her own exile to discover herself.
She's going to Margaritaville.
Which brings me to my next point. During all of this, Lex Luthor has been around.
I thought he died.
Hold on.
Hold on. Okay.
I'm talking about our Lex Luthor, not
my neighbor.
Her Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
Her Lex Luthor died. Our Lex Luthor is kind of fine. And by kind of fine, I mean that he had a kryptonite ring that he wore for a long time. Kryptonite, for those who don't know, is a radioactive element that predominantly hurts Kryptonians, but it's also radioactive. And you know what radioactive elements tend to do?
Cancerous.
Turn you into a super mutant from Fallout 4.
I mean, yes, but Liana is also right. They are also cancerous.
Yeah, probably more that. I'll be honest.
He starts to get a weird cancer in his hand where, he's wearing a ring 24 hours a day to keep Superman away from him.
Mm-hmm.
He gets his hand amputated.
Oh, okay.
This happened in DC comic,
which is fine, whatever. He gets a robot hand, like
dang.
Luke
you can
Skywalker.
wear the ring when you're trying.
Yeah.
However, he didn't get it amputated soon enough, and the cancer has spread to his whole body.
Damn.
So now we have a cancer-stricken Lex Luthor who has cancer because of his own devices, because he wanted to keep Superman away from him. And he decides that what he needs to do is test fly his new plane, which is set to set a world record for airspeed around the world travel.
Mm-hmm.
So he's set to co-pilot this because he wants to do this one last thing before he dies. Though he has not announced that he's sick at all to the general public, just...
Right.
I bet they'd know. You can't not see that.
Well, if this motherfucker is bald already.
But he doesn't have a hand. If suddenly you're like, I have a hand, and you're like, I have less hand.
No, he wears a glove over it. Nobody knows that.
This is DC Comics, Matthew. Get out of here.
I don't know.
Nobody knows that he has less hand. It's fine.
You lose weight. You lose weight too. Yeah. Okay.
He did not actually undergo chemotherapy. He was already bald.
We have to know. We have to know what the final intersection is between Matrix and our Lex Luthor.
I'll get there.
Yeah.
Give me a moment.
I'm here.
So Lex gets on this experimental plane to do the round the world in 80 minutes or whatever bullshit that he's got. And right around the time he hits the Andes Mountains in South America, he hits the eject seat on his co-pilot. So his co-pilot just flies out, and then he slams the plane into a fucking mountain. Because he's like, no, if I'm gonna die on my fucking terms.
Oh my god.
What a diva.
I mean, wouldn't you?
No,
you have the opportunity to kill yourself via jet plane, wouldn't you?
What? I'm not gonna wreck that. The insurance involved on that.
I have Matthew's like running a whole company.
I have
like,
employees.
run through the receipts here.
I'm not doing that.
Lex Luthor, who cares about your fucking employees?
Does he have eyebrows?
Yes, and they're red.
See, then no, I wouldn't do any. If I had no eyebrows, I would do it. But if I have eyebrows, I'm fine. I'm just a bald. It's different.
All right. So Lex kills himself. Nobody knows that he actually killed himself. They just think it was an accident.
We know about it now.
And his company just goes into a fucking spiral. Because he is the CEO and the only person that has knowledge of fucking anything. So LexCorp just goes down the fucking tubes, which in turn starts a recession in Metropolis because almost all of Metropolis is reliant on LexCorp because he owns everything in Metropolis. Alright, so Lex is dead. His company is floundering. Mm-hmm. They are desperately searching for a will. And they finally find a will. And in his will, he leaves everything to his previously unknown son, Lex Luthor II.
This is where Lex Luthor Jr. comes in.
It is where Lex Luthor Jr. comes in.
I thought that was the dead one.
Yeah,
no, that was Lex Luthor Jr. So suddenly, everything in LexCorp belongs to Lex Luthor Jr., who nobody knows.
And he's like 8? How old is he?
21.
Different.
Exactly.
Okay. Better.
Exactly.
They made sure, yeah. He's responsible.
It turns out he's Australian.
As you are wont to do at age 21. Yeah.
So they finally find Lex Luthor II, who is the son of Lex Luthor and Lex Luthor's primary care physician, Dr. Gretchen Kelly, who has been his primary care physician for a couple of decades, but they had a one-night stand and it became a son. YOLO.
These things happen.
It became a son.
It became
Lex Luthor Jr. was raised in Australia by foster parents who died in a fire.
Yep. Of course. I mean, not in a plan, so.
That's a risk you take as a foster parent. Yeah. Fires come to you, yeah.
But they find him, and they bring him back to Metropolis, and he is super business savvy, and rescues the floundering company, and becomes the hero of Metropolis, in addition to Superman.
The hero we needed.
Turns out there's more to this story. What actually happened... You remember that plane crash where Lex Luthor's remains were found?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's a twist, isn't there?
It was Matrix, wasn't it? It was Matrix!
It was not Matrix. Hold on.
Damn.
So...
It was... I don't have a guess.
What had happened is Lex Luthor found a hobo on the streets.
Man.
Had his primary care physician fake the medical records of said hobo.
Gretchen, I trusted you.
And then right before the plane crashed in the Andes, he put the hobo in the pilot seat and ejected himself. So that when the remains were found, it would show that it was Lex Luthor because the medical records had been switched.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, he took himself to Australia, where he had a secret cloning facility.
Damn. So who is his own son?
Hold on here.
We got nothing
They
left
took
to hold
his
on
brain
to.
and eyes out of his head. Why his eyes? I don't know, but
Because they're connected to the brain, it's not that easy. It's comics. Duh. They still believe in comics.
This is why Cori was like, hold on a second.
Gave him telepathic powers so that he could still communicate when he was just a brain.
Oh my god.
And then started to clone him a new body.
This is where his son comes in. I cannot.
Then he chooses to have an Australian accent. He's like, I can get an accent. And then
that's not all. That is not all. He chooses to be taller.
I would.
To be fitter.
I would do that.
Oh, of course, yeah.
To have an Australian accent.
I would do that too.
Who wouldn't want the Australian accent?
And here is the best part. At one point during the origin story of Lex Luthor II, the brain screams, and the hair?
Like, actually, like, speech bubble is coming from the brain during this run.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. So that's 100% the cover of this entire podcast. And
I will send you
tattoo I get on my chest.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, Lex Luthor II, I didn't discuss his physical appearance at all. He is the perfect specimen of a human male. Like, he is buff, he is tall, like 6'4".
He's the Chris Hemsworth of the Australians.
Perfect build.
Yeah.
That's too
but he
tall.
also has a full mane of red hair.
Oh.
And I'm talking long red
He's doing
hair.
it because he can, not because it looks
Full mane of red hair, along with a red chin strap beard.
He's looking like a Australian Fabio.
No, he's looking like an Australian Tom Taylor.
Oh my god.
I'm going to Google Tom Taylor tonight. I'll let you know how I feel.
Liana knows.
This
knows
is
what
by
Tom
far
Taylor looks like.
Probably the best description of any DC character that's ever walked the earth.
Is Tom Taylor,
especially with the addition
Tom Taylor, but ginger with long hair. That is
Tom
all
Taylor
you
a treat?
need to know.
Is he good to look at? What do we? No. These are pictures of a boy. There's a young boy.
Oh my god.
So, Lex Luthor II is actually the clone of Lex Luthor I.
Just with his brain.
Mixed with the genetic code of Gretchen Kelly, so that he could actually pass her off as his mom, but also with Lex Luthor I's brain.
But
so
also the hair!
Yeah.
This is still the Lex Luthor that we know and hate.
Mm-hmm.
Just in a fantastic, fabulous new body. And here is where we get the part where Matrix and Lex Luthor II interconnect. Because Matrix returns to Earth as Supergirl.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking your standard blonde Superman costume Supergirl. Yep. That is the form she has decided on as her own. And that's great. I love that.
Yeah, they're happy for her.
However, she has distinct memories of her Lex Luthor, who had the full mane of red hair but not long, and no chin strap beard, but he looked a lot like this.
Similar enough.
Yeah.
Lex Luthor. And she was in love with her.
Oh no.
I didn't say it, but I did call it. And my brain earlier was thinking love. And I was like, I'm not going to interrupt.
Was in love with her Lex Luthor.
Mm-hmm.
And so she sees this version and is immediately enamored.
I mean, he's got a chin strap.
Does she know he's different though? Because he is junior?
she knows that he's not the same as her Lex.
Well, he's just spicier. Yeah.
But he also, like, this Lex builds a persona for himself where he is the altruistic hero. He's not his daddy's Lex Luthor.
Every narcissist does. Every time.
No, he does heroic things, but they're all self-serving. They're to make himself more popular than Superman. And, like, when Superman dies, he has a problem because he's not the one that kills Superman.
Right.
Like, he has severe mental problems with not being the one that did that.
Right.
But all this time, he's dating Supergirl, and he's gaslighting the hell out of her. He is putting on the public persona of, I'm the nice guy, while behind closed doors and outside of her line of sight, he's still murdering people. He's still the terrible person that he always has been. It's just he's better about putting on the public persona and acting nice around her. It's your stereotypical abusive relationship where all of the signs are there, but the person being abused doesn't realize it. The person that's being abused is oblivious to all of the awful things that this person is doing because they're also being abusive towards them in different ways.
Yeah.
They date for approximately 30 issues.
Can't even pretend to know what that is in actual time.
Oh, okay, and let me put this in a mild term. This is 30 issues of one comic. At the time, there were 4 Superman comics.
Yeah.
So this is approximately 120 issues of them dating.
I mean, that's like literally their entire lives.
This makes me out of breath. You know what I mean?
Which, like, they start dating in, like, 1991 and break up in, like, 1994. Our time. Okay. The thing that breaks them up is Lex Luthor II gets a clone disease.
Came back.
Deal breaker. That's a deal breaker.
Well, no, that's not what actually is the deal breaker, but, like, this is part of the story, is that all of the clones that were created by this same individual and the company that he worked for start to develop basically clone AIDS.
Jesus Christ.
Like,
this was in the 90s.
It was in the 90s.
90s comics for sure.
It's like a wasting disease, so, like, they start to get thinner and
they waste away.
They waste away and, like, lose their hair and everything else. So at this point, around Action Comics 700 or so, Lex is starting to get hit with this disease because he's a clone. And he loses his hair again. It all just falls out. He begins to waste away. And he gets more and more aggressive and angry. And that's when Supergirl can see, oh shit, he's been manipulating me all along. He's a terrible person.
Because he lost the hair.
Yeah. I was worried about her for a minute there.
And she beats the shit out of him.
Okay.
In his sickened state.
Abuse begets abuse.
Yeah.
I feel like this is definitely like somebody who wrote this.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Somebody didn't learn their whole lesson, yeah.
And then Lex Luthor II declares war on Metropolis.
As a supervillain does.
Yeah.
Starts sending missiles all over the place, blows up the Daily Planet, blows up a couple of other landmarks around town, finally gets caught by Superman, put in a stasis chamber because he's dying. They find a cure to the clone disease. The cure doesn't revert him back to his, full-bodied Australian self.
Yeah, no Tom Taylor anymore.
No,
but back to like
anymore.
a regular Lex Luthor level body.
No, regular Lex Luthor is overweight.
Mm-hmm.
This Lex Luthor is wasted away.
Okay. But at stasis of where he was, period.
Yeah, at stasis and also, again, bald again.
Mm-hmm.
Just to finalize things, Lex Luthor, now in this decrepit clone body, gets approached by Neron, who is one of the few devil figures of DC, to sell his soul. And so Lex Luthor sells his soul in return for his original body. And that's how we get the stereotypical, slightly overweight, bald Lex Luthor, both hands, back in the DC universe.
This saga was such a roller coaster just to end at, like when you're on a roller coaster and you have the slow go stop and there's nothing afterwards. It's the most lackluster ending. This was the most intense ride of a Lex Luthor story. Just to be like, I sell my soul to start from the beginning. And by beginning, I mean his very, basic bitch life that had.
I mean, this one would eventually go on to be president of the United States of America.
Right.
Fine.
Right.
It's just, at this point, he was back in a slightly obese body with no hair.
But you got your hands. What I'm going to say...
He got his hands and he got no cancer. It's fine.
That's true.
Pretty okay deal to me. I'm going to say this whole time I heard Lex Luthor Jr. and I was like, this is like young Sheldon. That's literally, I was like, I can't wait to hear about all the wacky antics boy Lex Luthor got up to. So this is different than that.
And boy howdy. I did not know it was going to be the clone of him.
I didn't know it wasn't going to be a boy.
Body, because, DC, magic, I can do whatever I want. So it's definitely me in this clone's body.
I do like how realistic it all was, though.
It's 100% could happen.
I think it did. I think it did.
Oh my gosh, incredible. I have to say, I'm really excited to have you on, one, because we knew each other already, and we were talking earlier before recording that it's funny because Matt actually doesn't know you, so this is the first time we're recording with somebody that only I know.
Yes.
And so I have the upper hand here. Finally.
But earlier, before we started recording, you were like, I'm really nervous because Cori's really cool. And I was well, I'm fine because I don't know how cool Cori is. But then I thought about it and I was like, now I'm nervous because you're nervous.
Yeah.
And now Cori's nervous too.
Cori's like, no, I'm not. Get out of here.
No, I tried. It was a good effort.
Cori, number one, can you tell our listeners something about you? One to two things. Maybe how you are in the realm of comics and also why you love comics. And then number two, tell us what you're drinking.
All right. I am in the realm of comics as an Eisner Award-winning comics journalist for Women Write About Comics, where I'm a writer and an editor. I also contribute to a bunch of other sites, Comics XF, Comics Beat, and most recently, Comfort Food Comics. And what got me into comics is the death and return of Superman, which is part of what we'll be talking about today. So, it's the biggest touch point of my comics fandom, and it's why I'm here. So,
what's wild is I remember meeting you based off of you commissioning me for a friend of a sexy Cyclops, number one, best prompt ever. Cannot lie. Honestly, probably, and it's probably one of my favorite commissions I've ever done. And number two, we then spent months talking about and/or other commission stuff related to X-Men exclusively and Excalibur. And so the fact that you were like, I'm going to pick DC, either Donna Troy or we're going to do Lex Luthor Jr., I was like, when you mentioned Lex Luthor Jr., I was like all in because I was like, I know nothing. Let's do this.
See, the weird thing is that my X-Men fandom is relatively new. Like, it's in the last year that my X-Men fandom has exploded.
Is Donna Troy X-Men?
No, Donna Troy is Teen Titans. And that was my original topic, but I don't think I could explain it well drunk, so...
I think, too, like, what I have to call you out for in the best way ever, no shade whatsoever, is that you are the most organized fan I have ever met in my life. And, like, it's your profession, it's your job. And you take it to such an unreal level where I was like, what X-Men should I read? And you're like, ho, ho, ho. Let me just send you this X-Men spreadsheet of every run and every issue that you could possibly read. And I was like, I have so much respect for Cori. It is unreal. Unreal.
Yeah, Matt, you don't
Anyway,
know
that's
this,
when I became obsessed.
How could I have?
I read 6,000 X-Men issues over the last year and a half.
What?
There's 6,000? One. Is there more than that? Yeah, probably. What?
No, that I
Is that all?
read all of X-Men. All of it.
Oh my god.
I used to be all high and mighty because I've caught every Pokemon. And then you're like, oh, 6,000. I've done nothing.
I think you all the listeners here need to realize you need to get on Cori's level.
Yeah,
You
make
just
a
need to read
spreadsheet.
all 6,000 issues.
Yeah,
Though
it
I
was
do
my
probably know
2020
from
resolution was to read all of X-Men, and I did it by the end of October.
that is wild.
You
Wait,
didn't
is this
even
when you
need it.
finalized the spreadsheet when I finally read it? Is that this
What?
now checks out? I'm just mentally coming to the conclusion that that's probably when I saw the spreadsheet.
No, you saw the spreadsheet when I was in the middle of it.
Okay.
But the
okay.
spreadsheet was already filled completely out. It just had an extra row of columns where I put whether I had read something or not.
Okay. So, do you bring this level of detail and extremity to your work in comics? Because as you started with, is that you are now Eisner-winning editor. Congratulations, by the way. You know, I was screaming on Twitter about that.
I would have had I known.
Yeah, and do you bring this to like different aspects of your life as well, not just when you're, because I like that completionist aspect in reading comics. I'm not even joking. I have like tabs behind me on all my books of what I haven't read. So like I wish I was at that level.
Yeah, like when I do a reading project, I like to make a spreadsheet for myself because it keeps me on task. It's something to keep me, to give me goals and to keep me on pace. Like, specifically for my X-Men one, I had, here are the number of books I need to read per day to hit my goal.
Absolutely.
And it was, I needed to read 19 comics a day. And like I would usually
God.
I would usually hit it, and on weekends I would surpass it. Like, because on a weekend you can sit down and read for hours.
That's almost 2 trades a day, right?
Were there moments where that would work?
Depending on the length of trade. For my Superman project that I'm currently in, I don't have a set timeline for it, but I'm currently averaging about 8 comics a day.
Wow.
And it takes a little longer because I'm writing as I go, because this is for a long form series of articles that I'm doing. And I'm also keeping track of my word count per article. So,
Okay, yeah.
Currently I have written 34 articles and only 2 have been published.
Oh my gosh. Matt and I are just like, we're done.
By the time this premieres, many more will have been published because we're aiming for a 2-a-week schedule. But yeah, I've got 34 in the can, and probably by the end of the month, I'll have up to 50. Like, I have it all in one Google sheet or one Google Doc, and I'm currently up to, I think, 85 pages, somewhere around there.
Oh my god.
And you said is that 2 week for the whole year? You've got to get, what, 110? Or how many weeks?
So the
think it's-
original estimate that I gave the editor of the pieces is I estimated 97 pieces. But then I hit the death of Superman, and I started going from, like, I had originally planned for 1 piece per arc. And I hit the death of Superman, and my word count got too high. So it became, for the death and return of Superman, it became 1 piece per issue.
How many issues? How many issues are in that? As someone who doesn't know.
There are 7 issues in the death, 9 in the 9 in funeral, and 20 something in the return. So I'm currently at over 100. Over 100 pieces that I have planned out, and that's barring any other arcs that require me to go further in depth.
Okay, wow. That is.
We have the actual Superman expert here on our podcast, Cori. Can you tell us what your drink of choice is and what you invited us to share drinks with you?
Yeah, so my drink of choice is margarita. However, I am a dum-dum.
I would say also maybe a bit of a MacGyver. The way you
also a bit of a MacGyver, yes. And, well, I purchased tequila and triple sec. I completely spaced on ordering limes or lime juice. And also margarita salt. Like, completely spaced all of the non-alcoholic parts of a margarita. So
I mean, the alcoholic ones are the most important, so.
Right.
You got the 2 things you need.
Yeah.
So I think you're fine.
So what I wound up doing is I looked over our kitchen, and we had a bag of clementines left over from when I made fruit salad for Christmas. And I'm like, that'll work. That's citrus, right?
MacGyver, as I said, perfection.
You said, did you say tangerines or oranges? I forget.
Clementines.
You didn't say either of those. When you said clementines for Christmas, I was like, yeah, of course, the classic Christmas food. And then
so I make a fruit salad for Christmas.
That makes more sense now.
Where it's whipped cream and various fruits, and also Snickers. And that's the entirety of the dessert.
We're going to spend 30 minutes dissecting this fruit salad.
That's what we're actually about doing. I'm upset. I have heartburn again. I'm glad. I hope you like it.
I love that when our listeners listen to this, they'll be like, what holiday are they talking about? Christmas? Oh, okay.
Yeah, fruit salad.
So I had a bag of clementines. I juiced 4.5 of them to make enough juice for my margarita.
For one,
Incredible.
And so I've got a margarita with an orange on it, and made of orange juice, and use sugar to rim the glass instead of salt, and it's fantastic.
This will forever be known. I'm going to start recipes for the podcast, and this will be forever known as the Lex Luthor Jr.
That's a really great. Wow. That's a really good idea.
How appropriate that is.
We can't.
I am going to draw it for you. Everything. I got you.
We can't even forget. And
oh my god, that's so appropriate. Nice.
That's a word.
Yeah. My version was grapefruit juice, so I actually clearly. We must have like an ESP connection or something, because I was like, oops, forgot margarita stuff. So I have grapefruit juice and tequila. So very close, not quite the clementines, because that's very like, I feel like that's a very like high level, like that's some good shit right there.
Fresh squeezed is up here. My hand is above my head.
Yes.
Yeah. That's Had we at any point talked about margaritas before this?
On the email, but
I didn't. I
don't think I don't read emails.
No, I do. I don't know that I if we can check and see if I was CC'd in there. Because sure, you forgot the things that aren't the tequila and the triple sec. So
Sure.
But what I don't have, and I didn't think about till now, I don't have tequila. Triple Sec in the other room. I didn't put it in. I'm drinking Kahlua. I'm drinking a homemade
But
Kahlua.
that's the Christmas, like it follows the Christmas.
Christmas is
theme. That's
over, though. But
Give
yeah.
me Lex Luthor Jr. drink that's solely done around Christmas
But
time. Love it.
One thing I gotta say though, this is homemade Kahlua. I'm not buying that junk ass bottle and drinking that. This is home brewed for a month. And then you put some vanilla almond milk and then you drink it. And that's all I have to say about it.
I appreciate it.
I'm sorry it's not a margarita.
No, that's fine. I'm not a fan of coffee, so Kahlua doesn't do it for me.
This is the only thing I drink coffee with.
Oh.
It's more chocolate milk.
I remember when I was a teenager and my mom would buy Kahlua candy in Mexico. And what those were was essentially, the chocolate-covered cherries that you get around Christmas time?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't know about that.
It's those, but instead of the cordial cream and the cherry inside, instead it's just a half a shot of Kahlua.
That sounds good.
I remember those. Yeah.
I've never seen that.
It's fine.
And so, like, you
okay.
eat one and you get a half a shot of Kahlua along with the chocolate, so it's like a mocha.
Ooh.
This tastes like that.
And my mom would buy jars of them that were like
she's ready to go.
Jars in Mexico for like $10. And then
that's wild because my mom too, that was like her drink. Like when I was growing up, I'm like, there's so much Kahlua in the house all the time. Why?
That's expensive.
I didn't know what it was,
and in Mexico it's super cheap. And my mom would just bring home these gallon jugs of candies, and as a teenager, she didn't notice them going missing because
was she gonna count them? Yeah.
Who's gonna miss one or two every couple of days? Like
exactly. So this has been insane, and we have a lot of work to do with like creating these recipes, and I'm gonna draw all these cool things. But in the meantime, Cori, where can we find you, and what projects can you talk about that's coming up next?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at CoriMarie21. Almost everything I do will be posted on there at some point or another. You can also follow my writing at Women Write About Comics, where I do a monthly DC column along with reviewing Hellions and Excalibur on a monthly basis. You can find other writing at Comics XF, where I write about the Immortal Hulk and X-Factor and Power Rangers and Commanders in Crisis. And you can find me on The Beat, where every 3 weeks you will see me writing about DC Comics. And most importantly, for the topic of today, you can find me at Comfort Food Comics, where I am currently undergoing a series of articles where I review the entirety of 1990s Superman from 1991 to 2001, what is commonly known among Superman fans as the Triangle Era, where I am reviewing it arc by arc or sometimes issue by issue. Please give those a read if you were at all intrigued by tonight's topic.
Cori, we are so honestly just given such a pleasure and an honor for you are obviously an expert on this, and so glad to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much.
I've learned more than I thought I would about any DC thing ever, and also met you, so that both of those are great.
Perfect. Until next time, thank you so much. This is Comics Inebriated. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Good night. Good luck.